Great job, you're in. Thanks for coming in, thanks for signing up again. Now, as promised, I've got quite a long video for you, so I suggest you grab a beer or your drink of choice and settle down with a notebook to watch what I hope will be entertaining and informative video. I've got 10 micro niche angles. Each of them can be padded out and explored further in your own time if you want to. If you don't want to, each of them has its own exemplary example system, micro system that you can take away and use directly. So it's your choice. You can use it off the peg, or you can make it more bespoke, as you wish. Anyway, enough with my waffle. Let's get over to the computer and crack on. Cheers. Right, I've just sat down at my computer, and the first thing I wanted to say was that a couple of years ago there were actually plenty of websites that you could go to research racing systems, but unfortunately, for various reasons, redesign, obsolescence, or plain charging models where they've asked for money, like the Racing Post now, a lot of these sites are now not free to access, or the data that's available is quite limited. To that end, on the Sporting Life site there is a statistics feature at sportinglife/racing, and then in the sidebar menu there's a stats feature. It's pretty limited, to be honest. It might be okay to identify kind of a basic angle, but there's very little depth to the content here, and I can't really recommend it as a place to go to do your research. In point of fact, these days, with the sad demise of the Adrian Massey site that some of you may remember, and also Keith Eckstein's Racing Systems Manager website as well, the only one really, the only website based one that I would recommend these days is Horse Race Base, which is run by a friend of mine called Chris Bagnall. Chris is a great guy, and he works slavishly on this website, and it's got lots and lots of fantastic features. The key one, certainly in the context of this video, is under research, and it's called the System Builder feature. Just before I tell you that, I'll just quickly tell you that this is a paid site. It's very reasonable. It's about €7.50 a month, which is about £6, I think. And if you use the link below this video, you can actually get a 2-week free trial, which is something that I arranged for my GG's readers to have. I don't get any commission on this, by the way. I love the site. As you can see there, I pay for my access to it as well. I think it's a fantastic tool, and one that I use very often, and I have no hesitation in recommending. And I'll show you some of the reasons why, starting now. So the key purpose of this video is really to show you how to research trainer angles, and in doing that I'm going to illustrate how you do this with 10 different possible angles and an example of a trainer who is worthy of following under these conditions in each case as well. And I think a problem that a lot of people have when they're thinking about researching is that they think, well, I just haven't got a clue where to start, and that's fair enough. And I mean, the easiest way to get started is to watch horse racing. This time of year is the start of the flat season, so we get the first 2-year-old races. Soon after the first 2-year-old races, we get the next wave of 2-year-old races, and already that leads us to 2 possible angles, and that is the trainers who tend to have their horses ready to run first time up, who are fit and know their job, They've done a lot of work with them at home, and there are the trainers who perhaps aren't that clued up front, and show improvement from their first to their second run and benefit greatly from that. Enough with the preambles. The first one I want to look at is, as I just referenced, 2-year-olds first time out. So just to quickly introduce the interface here, it's color coded. It might look like a complicated beast, and it's as complicated as you want it to be, but it breaks down quite simply. So the first section, the light blue, is general race parameters, and I'm going to choose races in the most recent years. As you know, trainers are come and go into and out of fashion, and the market catches up with them as well. So a trainer whose horses are winning at 20% this year for a profit of 50 points might be winning at 20% next year for a profit of only 5 points, because the market catches up and the prices shorten. So it's an ongoing game. So I'm going to look at the last few years here. The other element that I'm mostly going to use is I'm going to use an odds cutoff of 12 to 1 for the horses that I'm looking at, and the reason for that is because I want to deal with the top end of the market. It's the more reliable part of the market, the more repeatable part of the market. But anyway, first things first, right? I'm going to choose the date, and for this one it's 2-year-olds first time up. So in the horse data area, I'm going to choose age because I want 2-year-olds, and under horse runs any, I'm going to choose none because I want them to be first time up. So having done all that, then scroll down to the bottom. Let me just change the window size so you can see this, and we're presented with our parameters screen. So as I say, trainer patterns vary from year to year, and really the key area to look at from my perspective is the last 3 full years. So in this case 2010, 11 and 12. I've also put in 2013 there, which we're just into. This is a 2-year-old's first time out, so the age, you can choose the ages that you want here. They default to 2, which is the youngest, so that's fine. I can choose the number of runs as well. It defaults to 0, which is what I want also. So I now have the parameters that I want. 2-year-olds who have yet to run from 2010 to 2013, and I just click go, and then I'm going to run the query, and you can see that in the last 3 and a bit years there have been nearly 11,000 such horses, and they win at a paltry 7.5%, and you'd lose 30% on stakes backing all of those. That's not really a big surprise. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the builder tool, and I'm going to use this feature here called full set, and that allows me to break down and analyze any category when applying existing system criteria. Now in this case, excuse me, I'm going to apply the trainer category, and when I click go, it brings me a list of all of the trainers who have had 2-year-old first time out starters in the last 3 years. You'll see they're alphabetized here, with Mr. Alzaruni still in the list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort by win strike rate. I'm going to change this to descending, and I'm going to insist on at least 25 qualifying runners. This now brings up a list of the trainers with the best strike rate with 25 or more qualifiers over those 3 years, and the top one is Michael Jarvis, who the late Michael Jarvis, unfortunately no longer with us. Saeed bin Suroor is the second, and we can see that he makes a small loss at starting price, but it's this chap here, Ed McMahon, that I'm particularly interested in, largely because I know that he has his horses very fit first time out. So I'm going to tick that box and scroll right down to the bottom, and run a query just for him, and we can see we get the same data here that we had on the last screen. But if I look at the timeline, then I can see how Ed's horses have performed from year to year, and you can see 2010 made a small loss, 2011 and 12 a profit, and so far this year he's not had a winner from 2 runners. So that's the first of our 10. It's taken a bit longer than I anticipated to go through that, largely because I wanted to point out some of the attributes of horse race base. I'm going to go through the remaining 9 a good bit more speedily, so hold on to your hats. It's time for number 2. This time we're interested in horses who are ready for their first start after a break. That could be in their first run or any time subsequently, but after a break of what I've described as 4 months or more, 120 days or more. And again, you can allow yourself some latitude here. These are arbitrary figures to some degree. I could have chosen 90 days, I could have chosen 150 days. It doesn't really matter too much. So as I say, I'm going to somewhat arbitrarily put the days since a run, and we come down to the kind of pinky colour for horse's last race, and find the days since run box there. Click go. I'm going to choose between 120, which is about 4 months, and the maximum parameter, which is 2000, about 7 years. Well, let's just work with that first. I'm going to full set all trainers who for their runners after a 4 month or more layoff. I'm going to sort that by win strike rate, descending, and at least 25 runners. And we can see at the top our late friend Michael Jarvis is there, and then we have a trainer called Miss P. Robson, Pauline Robson, Willie Mullins, Nicky Henderson, are interesting in terms of their strike rate, but they're not profitable to follow. If we order by profit and loss, we can see that perhaps the most interesting is Richard Hannon, who on a very large sample size over the last few years has actually been profitable to follow, which is quite surprising, because there's no secret about his horses, but backing Hannon horses at any price after a break of 4 months or more has returned a profit at Betfair odds of almost 150 points, and we can see that that's consistently the case over the last 3 full seasons. Obviously the value is diminishing, and that kind of emphasises the point that I made about we've got to be looking for the next big thing all the time. But if we were to put in some sort of odds threshold there, I suspect that his might be profitable further down the list, but normally I'd be looking at 12 or 20 to 1 as my cut-off. And you can see that in actual fact Hannon's horses do well all the way down to 33 or 40 to 1. I'm going to stick with 20 to 1 here, I think. And again, we can see on the timeline that the profit is consistent from year to year. The last couple of years it's slowed down, and in actual fact it would be my guess that this year Hannon's horses would continue to win after a break of 4 months or more at around about 20 to 25%, but that they might be slightly loss making to follow, and this is just due to the market cottoning on to how fit and ready they are. Nevertheless, it illustrates our point well enough about the angle of horses ready to run after a break. So if some trainers have their horses fit and ready to go on their first start, either as a 2-year-old or after a break, it stands to reason that some trainers' horses will improve for that first run, and that they'll actually be getting their final stripping of fitness on the track on that first run, and we should be able to expect them to perform better on their second run. So let's test that theory. Again, I'm going to choose the years 2010 to 2013. I'm going to specify that the horse should have had one previous run, and it should have been on that last run out of the frame, because I'm looking for an improved performance, but it shouldn't have been beaten out of sight. So I'm going to say distance beaten less than 10 lengths, and in order to get rid of the no-hopers, I'm going to insist on horses at the top end of the market, 12 to 1 or shorter. So if I quickly punch this in here, 2010, 11, 12, 13, odds between 1 to 40 and 12 to 1, horse previous runs 1, and placing last time, I can click select all, which chooses them all, and then deselect first, second and third, and that will give me fourth and any other position. And distance beaten from a short head to 10 lengths. Go. Click run query. Now we can see the superset, that is all trainers' horses that satisfied these criteria, had a near on 20% strike rate, but showed a loss of 9% on stakes, which is reasonable and workable, and from there we would expect clearly some trainers to do better than others, and in actual fact there's two interesting points that I want to tease out from the trainer community in this particular case. So I'm going to sort by win strike rate, descending, a minimum of 10 bets, and you can see there's some awesome strike rates here, and we clearly start to get a picture of those trainers whose horses improve from their first to second runs. You could actually look at, you could choose a whole group here, because the sample sizes, while not massive, are probably reliable to give the impression that these trainers definitely leave something to work on from first to second start. I'm going to look particularly at Jeremy Noceda, but one thing I want to do down at the other end of this list, because I think it's really interesting, is first of all, you remember our mate Ed McMahon, who has his ready first time out? Well, he's got none from 11 in this improver category, and that is entirely congruent with the fact that his are ready to run on their first start. So if they don't win first time up, there probably isn't that much improvement to come from their first to their second start, and that's not to say that they won't improve over time, but in the very short term, first start to second start, they probably aren't going to. And the same applies to some other quite high profile trainers down at the bottom of this list, notably Tom Dascombe, Richard Fahey, and others who we associate with early 2-year-olds. If they're not ready first time, there's a good chance they'll get beaten second time as well. Anyway, let's go back to our man Jeremy Noceda, and again we can see that he's had 9 of his 22 runners actually won when actually improved enough from first to second start to win, but incredibly 15 of the 22 went on to make the frame on their second start. And if we look at the full sample size, we can see that sure there aren't a lot of runners, but they are supremely consistent. Fourth second, third fourth second, first sixth, first third, first fourth, third fourth, first second. Now you're not going to get rich just backing these horses, but using Noceda and some of the other trainers in this angle and some of the other angles in combination will give you a lovely little portfolio that should tick away and chip away consistently from month to month. So that's our angle number 3, first to second run improvers. Okay, angle number 4 is a slight change of tack. This time I want to look at the race type claimers. Now, claimers are specific races where any horse in the race can be claimed by another person other than its owner or trainer for a price determined by the owner and trainer when they enter the horse, and the horse will carry more or less weight depending on the price that the owner trainer are asking for. So essentially these are races where connections handicap their own horse against the other horses, and clearly some trainers are better at this task than others. So I'm going to look again, I'm looking at the date, the same years. I want a horse running in a claimer today, so I'm going to check this box here, and I want them not to have been running in a claimer last time. So horse's last race, hunters, claimers, sellers, and I'm going to go with the 12 to 1 or shorter again, which is going to be a common thread through all of these. So today's race is a claimer, the year 2010 to now, 12 to 1 or shorter, and the horse didn't run in a claimer or a seller or a hunter. Actually, I'm just going to leave it as didn't run in a claimer or seller last time, and click go. And if I run the query, you can see that we got a 20% strike rate, which is quite high. So horses dropping into a claimer after running in a presumably a handicap last time typically actually win often enough. Their return on investment is about minus 9.5% though, so again it's an angle with merit but not to be followed blindly. If we now full set for our trainer sample and click go, and we can see that that some trainers do better than others in these races. The likes of George Baker, Ian Williams, the late Mick Quinlan, unfortunately passed away earlier this year, Marco Botti, Jim Boyle. These are all good trainers. I'm just going to sort it by SP, profit and loss, and because although the strike rates for some of these guys might be slightly lower, they're on bigger sample sizes. So for instance, David Nichols has run 90 horses under such conditions, and David Evans has run 119, and if we were to we could actually make a little micro system just out of this angle. if we chose just these 3 guys and clicked add criteria and ran that query, you can see that they win at nearly 29% of the time for an SP profit of 95 points and a Betfair profit of over 120. If we look at the timeline, you can see it's very consistent really. The strike rate is 24% or more. Profit is good from year to year. This year has been slow so far. It might be that the majority of the profit is on the turf rather than all weather, and we haven't tested that, nor will we here because of time constraints. But this small micro angle backing David Evans, David Nichols and Ian Williams horses when dropped into claiming company, having not run in a claimer last time, price 12 to 1 or shorter, looks very attractive. If we look at the each way figures, I always insist on 5 to 1 or bigger for the each way. We can see that from 82 qualifiers, each way backing returned a profit of 84 points, so that's just over 100% return on investment, which is pretty damn good. So that's angle number 4, claimer trainers. Angle number 5 is weight for age. Now in the UK and most international racing jurisdictions, there is a recognition that throughout the racing year, some of the younger horses are less or more able to compete against their elders. Rather than separate them all throughout the year and insist they run against their own age group, the weight for age system allows concessions to younger horses that theoretically give them a better chance or an equal chance of competing against their elders. Now, of course, theory is fine, but what about the practice? Well, I do have a specific trainer in mind for this, because I've plundered this path many times to successful effect myself in recent years. So I kind of know where I'm going with this one. I'm just going to add in some criteria. I'm going to look at flat turf races over a race distance of a mile, handicaps actually over a mile and a half or more, and I'm going to say that the horse will be 3 years old and it will be running in a race for 3-year-olds and up. So if I click go there, so I'm looking at flat turf races over a mile and a half and longer, handicap races, and the race should be eligible to all horses aged 3 and up, but my horse should only be 3 years old. Go. Because he's 3 years old, obviously he's getting all the weight concessions. Now if I click run here, what you'll see is actually really, to my eye, it's amazing. It's certainly very interesting. You can clearly see that backing these horses, irrespective of the trainer, makes a profit of 120 points over the last 3 seasons at Betfair prices, and just about breaks even at starting price. So it is my contention that the weight for age scale favours younger horses, and I think at least to some degree these figures back that up. Anyway, this is all grist to our mill, and it's to our advantage. So what I want to do is I want to see if there are any trainers who specialise particularly at taking advantage of this weight for age concession, and I'm going to sort by win strike rate descending 10 or more, and I am looking for somebody in particular, and it's this fellow here, Mark Johnston, who, as you can see, has the greatest profit. He runs the most runners under these conditions, and he strikes at a quite remarkable, I think, 27%, and his horses place under such conditions 45% of the time. Remember, these are with horses 12 to 1 or shorter. If we look at the timeline, again you can see that he's profitable to follow every year, and he actually, if anything, seems to be eking more profit, not less, out of this angle. He hasn't had any runners under these conditions this year yet, but that's because I don't think there have been any mile and a half handicaps for 3-year-olds and up this early in the season. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, these clearly are horses to look out for. So that's Mark Johnston in mile and a half plus flat handicaps when he's got a 3-year-old racing against older horses. That's a really nice and simple angle. It makes sense. It's a loophole in the way the race conditions are set, and we should take advantage of it. That's number 5, weight for age. Angle number 6 is change of trainer. Now, we all know that some trainers are better than others, and some trainers are not quite as good as others, and this angle seeks to find those who are better and therefore improve a horse for the change of trainer. Again, I'm going to select the same years and the same odds, 12 to 1 or shorter. I'm going to say that the horse has run no times for this trainer, so this is his first run for a new trainer. I'm also going to suggest they've had at least, again it's an arbitrary figure, but let's say 3 runs for another trainer or trainers. So 2010 to 13, odds 12 to 1 or shorter. Horse runs any between 3 and 1 million. Horse runs for this trainer, none. And if I click go, then run query, we can see on this one that we have a return on investment of -12%. So just backing all horses who have changed trainer and having their first run for a new trainer is going to lose money. But there are a handful of trainers who specifically buy horses from other yards with the belief that they can improve them. And again, I've got a few names in mind, but I'm going to single out just one here from my full set. So I click trainer for full set, and again I'm going to look at win strike rate descending at least 10, in fact at least 25. And the guys I'm looking for are Brian Ellison and David O'Meara. These two northern guys, they really know their business. Plenty of those others are worthy of interest as well, but these two, Ellison and O'Meara, are top bananas in this context. You can see they win at 30% and over 100 points bet into Betfair SP, 90 points at starting price. And if we look at the timeline, we can see that although last year was moderate, let's say, against their other years, they still were hitting a good win strike rate, a great play strike rate, and this year so far has been even better. So that's a really simple angle. It's just a change of trainer to a new trainer who typically does well with horses he's acquired or she's acquired from elsewhere. That's angle number 6, change of trainer. Angle number 7, following on from that, is change of jockey. Now in America, a jockey change to one of the major riders is considered a real positive for a horse, and it's one of the most overbet approaches in American horse racing. Strangely, over here, although it's often noted that one of the top jockeys is riding a horse maybe for the first time, or certainly wasn't riding last time, there does still seem to be some value in the market betting these horses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Ryan Moore, Richard Hughes and Kieran Fallon as my horses, as my jockeys of note to be in the saddle today. 12 to 1 again, and a different jockey last time out. So I need to choose jockey and horses last race, jockey. Right, now it's a bit of a funny way of doing this one, so I'll choose my years again and down to 12 to 1. For jockey I want Kieran Fallon, there he is, Richard Hughes, there he is, and Ryan Moore. Where are you? There you are. Right. Now for jockey last time out, I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to unselect or deselect those three: Fallon, Hughes and Moore. Right, good, okay. So there we are. So 2000 and last 3 and a bit years, 12 to 1 or shorter. Fallon, Hughes or Moore today, not those chaps last time. And if we run that query, incredibly, although it makes a loss at SP, incredibly just backing those 3 jockeys over the last 3 and a bit seasons at Betfair SP would have made a profit of 140 points if they hadn't ridden the horse last time. See, this jockey switch angle, like I say, it's really big in America, and it's quite surprising that it isn't reflected more in our own betting markets than it actually is. So obviously, or not necessarily obviously, but it's my contention that pretty much all trainers would seek to get one of these top jockeys on their horse when they thought it had a good or a very good chance of winning. And certainly there are some trainers who have been able to avail themselves of this approach more than others. The key man here, and he is a bit of a dude when it comes to handicaps, is that wily countryman of my father's, Luca Cumani. He really is a judge and 3/4, and he knows his business very well. And this is exactly the type of angle where Cumani comes into his own. So if we look at his use of those 3 jockeys on fancied horses, and these would typically be in handicaps as well. I can quickly show you that. If I full set on handicap or non-handicap, you'll be able to see that although non-handicaps do okay from a profit perspective, the win strike rate's the same. Most of the profit comes in handicap races, but I'm not going to exclude either one, because they both add to the bottom line. So if I go back, run my query again, I'm going to look at the timeline. Now you will notice here that in 2011, dear old Luca, he had a bit of a miserable season. This year he's kind of breaking even, although it's very early days. But nevertheless, it remains an angle to look out for. And you know, the very fact that even if you took the entire training community and just backed Messrs Fallon, Hughes and Moore when they were jocked on, you'd make a profit over the long term. You can certainly use that as a starting point to refine this to your own personal tastes. So that's number 7, change of jockey. Number 8 is a belter. It's handicap first time and up in trip. So as you probably know, in order to get a handicap rating in the UK, you either have to win a race or usually run 3 times in either maidens or sellers or claimers, so that the handicapper can get a handle on the horse's level of ability. There are obviously various ways that the system can be played, and one of the most popular historically, and still quite popular today, is to run your horse over the wrong trip. So if you've got a horse bred for 1.25 miles and you run it in 6 furlong maidens for 3 starts, get him a handicap mark, and then you drop him into a low grade handicap over 1.25 miles, it's pretty reasonable to expect some considerable improvement. Again, some trainers are better at availing themselves of this opportunity, I use the word in inverted commas, more than others, but let's set this up and see how we get on with it anyway. So I want my odds and my year. Going to say it's going to be a handicap race, and the horse is going to have not run in a handicap before, so that will be no runs in handicap. Flat turf in this case, and I'm going to say a distance move of 2 furlongs or more. So the horse is going up in trip by at least 1/4 mile. Let's try that. 12 to 1. Distance move, right, up 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 7. I'm going to go with that. It's rarely going to be more than 7 furlongs, and I'll take my chances on that. And no previous handicap runs. Click go. I'm going to run that as a query, and again we see that without any trainer selectivity, this system shows a profit at Betfair SP in the last few years, and a nominal less excuse me, a nominal loss of 1.33% of stakes at starting price during that time. In point of fact, last year it had a very good season, and this year is in front again. Maybe that suggests that more people are availing themselves of this angle or this avenue. Certainly looking at the number of qualifiers, that seems pretty consistent. The number of runners is not is not out of kilter either, so I think it's probably just statistical blip rather than any kind of conscious decision to hoodwink the handicapper. Nevertheless, let's see who the prime hoodwinkers are by full setting our trainers again, and we can see who does best under these circumstances. Step forward, Michael Bell. Now, as you can see, no trainer has a huge number of runners that fit into this category, but Messrs Bell, Morrison and Arman Kumani again all do very well, and their win strike rate is backed up by their place strike rate as well. So I'm just going to look at Michael Bell here just for the purposes of this recording. We can see that over time he's shown a nice little profit each season with his qualifiers under such conditions, stepping up in trip at least a quarter mile, running first time in a handicap, and at least reasonably fancied in the market, 12 to 1 or shorter. Couldn't be any simpler. Makes absolute sense that some trainers would be availing themselves of this opportunity, and we can too. So that is trainer angle number 8, up in trip, first time in a handicap. Related to number 8 is trainer angle number 9, which is simply first time in a handicap. So we're not asking the horse to go further than it did last time or anything like that. We are merely interested in those horses running on the flat, in this case, who are having their first start in a handicap. So I need to say handicap there, and handicap runs will be none. So that's flat handicap 2010 to 13, 12 to 1 or shorter, and no runs in a handicap before. Go. And again, I mean, this is a massive group, nearly 5,000 qualifiers over the last 3 years. Unsurprisingly, it's a loser at SP and a Betfair SP. Loses 13% of stakes at starting price, but as with most of the other communities, there are within the superset of trainers a subset who are particularly adept at placing their horses in handicaps where they have a winning chance. And King of the Hill here is Andrew Boulding. You will notice some familiar names. Luca Kumani is in there again, Brendan Powell, even though small number of horses here, most of his are more exposed. These are some good names. Michael Appleby's a name to look out for as well, but I'm particularly interested in Andrew Boulding here. Down at the other end you'll see there are some fairly hopeless cases, and some quite big names as well. I won't verbalise their names to protect the guilty, but you can see them there for yourselves. Okay, so Andrew Boulding, first time in a handicap, 12 to 1 or shorter, about 50 points profit to SP, a 1 in 5 strike rate, consistent from year to year in terms of both strike rate and profit, place strike rate consistently around the 33 to 50% mark. A guy definitely to keep on side when his horses go from maidens to handicaps. That is Andrew Boulding, first time in a handicap, trainer angle number 9. Which brings us to number 10, and that is Saturday trainers. Some trainers, it's my contention, either because their owners want them or because they make it a part of their pledge to attract owners. They do particularly well with what's known in the trade as a Saturday horse, and that's a horse which is targeted at races on the telly on a Saturday, or maybe not on a telly, maybe just on the Saturday. In fact, I actually have within my own setup in Horse Race Base a system called Saturday Handicap Trainers, and we can see the rules for it here. Very simple, handicap Saturday, it goes back a few more years. I don't really want to be betting anything too short, but up to 16 to 1. Trainers Di Birchall, John Gosden, David O'Meara and Sylvester Kirk. And these 4 guys, they don't have runners every week, but they are pretty consistent, and you can see this year they've been making a profit again. Nothing spectacular, but as part of a portfolio, it's all grist to the mill. If we look at the last 30 qualifiers, you can see that on the 27th, which was last Saturday as I speak, there was a winner at 5 to 1 from 3 runners. The previous Saturday, unfortunately nothing from 6. A 16 to 1 shot finished 3rd. The week before had a 7 to 1 winner from 3 runners. Nothing doing the week before that or the week before that. Back on the 16th, 2nd, and on the 9th of Feb a winner at 16 to 1, the only runner that day. And then going back a bit further, 2 winners, 4 to 1 and 15 to 2. So you can see it's a really nice simple little system. I only have to look at it on Saturdays. There might be 6 qualifiers some days and no qualifiers another. It's not an intensive system in terms of stakes and pot, but Saturday handicap trainers, or Saturday trainers generally, is definitely an angle worth looking at, because there are certainly some trainers who specifically target races on the weekend. Okay, and that concludes our 10 trainer angles. I hope you've got some value from it. I hope you've got some ideas for yourself in terms of what you can go and look at and how to go about it. But if you're not inclined to do that, then I hope that you've got some ideas to take away and use straight away in terms of backing certain trainers under certain conditions in the coming weeks and months. That's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I've got plenty more to come over the next few days, so please do stay tuned for that. Until my next report, it's Matt Bisogno saying bye for now.